Hi, it's Molly. Welcome back to my channel. As I wanted to discuss this Chiron stationing retrograde that occurs on July 22nd, 2023, and why it is occurring at a very important degree point. So Chiron is connected with what we are healing in this lifetime. It is known as the wounded healer, and it holds the keys to something that we're meant to soften into. And you can see here that even the glyph for Chiron is a key. It holds a very interesting frequency that gives you insights into more of your humanness, which we can also perceive as vulnerabilities. But there's also access to your healing powers. And so Chiron wants us to soften to ourselves and acknowledge where we need support, we need assistance, we need others to maybe validate us, to hear us, to understand us, because there's something about our internal journey that requires us to even go outside of what is typical for answers. Now, Chiron is actually about taking an alternative path. It's outside of the mainstream. It is something that can feel like it marginalizes you, it pushes you to the outskirts. It's known for being connected to energies that don't know where they fit in. And Chiron also is about how that is our superpower. When you are thrown out of something that is quote unquote standard or status quo, then you begin to see things in a new way or with fresh eyes. So with Chiron, there can also be not only an alternative path, but organic or naturopathic, something else to explore and understand that also leads you into more of your own brilliance. And now Chiron is at 19 degrees, 57 minutes of Aries, so almost 20 degrees of Aries. And stations retrograde, that's what this S means, is station or stop, and will voyage back to 15 degrees and 27 minutes of Aries, where it will station direct December 27th. So basically, the remaining months of 2023 have this Chiron retrograde and asking you to go inward in the Aries areas of your chart for more answers, understanding, self-acceptance. This is also where we can understand more about how those Aries energies might feel tempered, might feel like they can't do everything on their own, that they're not as independent as they'd like to be at times. This is where the Aries energy is looking to understand itself in new ways outside of the ego, outside of the sense of self, beyond maybe what you initially thought around your self-concept or self-definition. Now, Chiron in Aries is also bringing up more about knowing ourselves. And so this is where collectively we're each on a journey of diving into more of who am I in this lifetime and what really helps me tap into more of who I am, more of my gifts, my talents, my abilities. This is also where the Chiron energy will trigger what needs to be healed. But it's not ego healing, it's heart healing, it's emotional healing. And it can also trigger where you feel alone in the world. I feel like this Chiron in Aries, which has been here since 2018, and stays in Aries until 2026, also brings up our trauma, PTSD, things that we've been holding within that we didn't realize had damaged us or hurt us or caused harm. So we're opening up to that and unpacking it, especially if you have planets or points in Aries. This would be working with you much more personally around redefining who you are from a more healed perspective. So Chiron takes us into ourselves in Aries, and this is where we have to move through some things that just take time. any kind of healing just takes time, especially if it's working with anything in the body, so physical healing. And I bring that up because Chiron actually has 2 wounds associated with it. And it's through the mythology of Chiron, where there was the need to be, no, not the need to be, the experience of being pushed away and creating some type of emotional wound that comes up through rejection, abandonment, not being accepted, not being validated, not being seen. So that can be an experience with Chiron in Aries, is something about yourself feels rejected. And then there's also the second Chiron experience, which can relate to a physical wound or injury or something to the physical body. So Chiron has a mission to help heal all that, to return you to also a sense of self-compassion and self-acceptance, not having these ridiculous standards around who you think you should be, but rather fully opening up to who you are, warts and all, scars and all, accepting what you've been through and transforming that into something that supports a deeper self-love. So there's definitely a frequency shifts that happen with Chiron. I do feel it connected to what we know as the hero's journey, where you go into some things that are uncomfortable. You have to look at it. You have to face it. Chiron in Aries is a warrior, though. It's a maverick. It's a pioneer. It will take things head on and say, all right, I'm going to look at this. And that could be as simple as, I'm going to go to therapy to talk about this. I'm going to sit down with somebody and be heard. I'm going to look at what has affected my self-concept so that I can be in control of it more. I can be in my power. And a reminder that you have what you need when you're working with this Chiron, because it also connects us to how we are each healers in some way. We each have the ability to work on those gifts. And so Chiron delivers beautiful gifts through that healing experience. So as I said, Chiron voyages back to 15 degrees, 27 minutes of Aries until December 27th, 2023. Then Chiron will station, direct, and go forward, and is going to have a conjunction with this North Node in Aries in February 2024. That will happen around 16 degrees of Aries. And the conjunction between Chiron and the North Node is a new chapter, a new healed version of self being integrated, feeling like, okay, I'm ready for this new start. I feel like I've been through some deep layers of myself and I accept it. I love it. I see more of who I am in this lifetime, and now I'm going to take it forward. So that upcoming conjunction in February 2024 to the North Node is going to be important, but there's even something more important that occurs in 2024. And that is, this is the exact degree point, 19 degrees of Aries is where we're going to have an Aries solar eclipse, April 7th and 8th, 2024, that will be conjunct Chiron. The sun and the moon conjunct this Chiron at 19 degrees of Aries in your chart. Powerful new beginning, blasting out residue, debris, whatever's incomplete, allowing you to see more of your healing self, your healed self. I feel this as new healers coming online. New areas of ourselves where we're stepping into our gifts more, and we can work with energy in new ways, in different ways, working with the body, understanding more of the components as well. So that would be one expression of what will be occurring with that Aries solar eclipse in April 2024. So that's what I wanted to bring up as Chiron stations retrograde at this degree point. It's almost like the universe is giving us a signal here to work on something, understand it, address it. Again, the Aries energy will go right towards it. The Aries energy is like, where's the pain? Where's the hurt? Where's the harm? We're going in. That's exactly what we're going to take care of. We're going to take this on and move through it. And then the Chiron retrograde is the slower process of healing that takes time, that can't necessarily be rushed on your own timeline. But then when Chiron returns to this degree point, after being conjunct the North Node, it's almost like there could be a new lease on life, a new sense of self that is softer and less about anything that is healthy or false, especially, let's say, a false ego or a false sense of self, because of how Chiron softens us into who we really are. So there could be something coming up for you, or rather, stay aware of something coming up for you, especially if you have planets or points around 19 degrees of Aries. This is going to be a degree point that you're working with into 2024 when that eclipse happens. And the eclipses, they're blasts of powerful energy. They change things up. And in Aries, it is a new beginning, a new start, a new chapter based on what you've learned, especially throughout 2023. So if you're working on something quite intense or quite personal, you're moving through some things, and again, you need support with Chiron. So that Aries energy will go super independent and say, no one can help me, no one can touch me, I've got this, until there's an injury and you're like, okay, yes, I do need help, I do need support. There are others who want to be there for you. So this is going to be a degree point that will be activated again in April 2024. And that is also a solar eclipse that goes across the United States. The United States actually has two powerful eclipses moving across it. One in October 2023, another in April 2024. And after those events, it takes time for the energy to play out. But I feel like this Chiron has some kind of important messages for us right now during the station retrograde. So just pay attention to what is happening in the Aries areas of your chart. Maybe there's something where you're like, I don't know if I can do this on my own. Or maybe the universe is pushing you to be more independent, to try something, and you're figuring out how to do that. So there are many ways that the energies can play out. Of course, it will depend on your chart and which house you have 19 degrees of Aries in. But just keep in mind that this is part of a story that will continue into 2024, and that solar eclipse is going to blast it with new consciousness, new beginnings. I also feel that it could be a very powerful turning the chapter, new page, and living from a healed perspective. Living from, this is who I am now, and claiming it. And maybe that's part of what Chiron retrograde is going to bring up here the second half of 2023, is showing you more of where you're going through a healing process, or you're understanding more about your own sense of self, so that with that eclipse, something is deeply activated in your sense of self. So just wanted to quickly make this video for you to give you a heads up, as well as some things to consider. And again, it will be most powerful if you have planets or points around 19 degrees of Aries. And if I were to give it an orb, I would say actually back, I would say 15 degrees of Aries to 24 degrees of Aries. So 15 to 24 degrees of Aries will be important, especially for what we will be moving into in 2024. And if you want to learn more about the nodes of fate and what is opening up for you especially in the areas of your chart, I have a new program that shows you what is fated for you to experience now, as the North Node is in Aries for the first time in 19 years and is showing you more of who you are, what you want. Also, again, Aries is about beginnings. So there's areas of your life that are going to have that fresh energy coming in. I'll put the link below this video here. But I hope this supports you in what might be going on in your world or in your journey. And we'll keep talking about this as well on my podcast episodes too. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has been useful, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Take good care.